who that next CEO is, who that CEO should be in that next election cycle, and what skills and qualifications that person should have. I think after you listen to me and I tell you a little about who I am and what you don't know, maybe those things you do know, you'll say maybe this is the guy that can do it for us, and my hopes are that's what you're going to walk away with tonight. As many of you know, I came to this country at the ripe old age of 3 from Italy with my parents in 1958 when we immigrated here. And we landed in Stamford, and my dad and mom came here with myself and my sisters and my sister and brother because of the opportunity that this country, America, as vast and big as it was, provided us that weren't available to us back in Italy. And we settled in Stamford and went to Stamford public schools, and my dad was a laborer, my mom worked in manufacturing, and grew up there, went to school, married my high school sweetheart, attended schools here in Connecticut, and basically started a company in '83 with a little story from my dad. My dad said, you know, when you come into life, there are 2 things that you get that no one can take away from you, is your name and your handshake. And I started this company called the Pinnacle Group in 1983 with literally a phone book and a phone and a closet to work out of. And over the last 26 years, it's grown to be a multinational company, creating hundreds of jobs throughout the country. During that process, I also got involved in politics. I served for 2 years on Stamford's Board of Representatives because I was very concerned about education for my children who were growing up at the time. I then left the Stamford Board of Representatives and ran for the State House in 1992 and served in the House of Representatives here in Hartford for 10 years, where I served my freshman year with Governor Rao before she went on to be Lieutenant Governor in the next election cycle with Governor Rowland. I served with, I think I saw Mark Boughton, Mayor Boughton, for a couple of years in the legislature. So I got to meet a lot of really neat people who moved up in the world to serve our state and in the cities in our state. As a member of the House, I served on a number of committees. I was the assistant minority leader. I was the ranking member on the real estate and the insurance committee. I was in the banks committee. I was in the workforce development committee. I'm trying to think if there was any other ones. But clearly, all areas that pertain to my business background and kind of things that I did. Did that for 10 years. Went back to my business, and about in 2006, I got a call from Governor Rao about coming and joining her campaign. At first, when she called me, she said she wanted me to get involved in the campaign. I thought she wanted me to throw her a fundraiser. And she said no, that wasn't the case, that she really wanted me to get involved in the campaign and talk about being her lieutenant governor. And actually, if you think about some of the reasons why she picked me to be her lieutenant governor in 2006, and today, they're very appropriate. My business background, someone who had worked in the legislature and understood the process, but also knew the egos and personalities and knew how to work that process and so on. So as you know, Governor Rell and I ran, we won, and I've been your lieutenant governor for 3.5 years. Now, going back to why I want to run for governor, I think the opportunity that we have in our state and the biggest issue that faces our state is jobs. It's jobs. We don't tax too much. We don't have enough jobs. If we were able to get 79,000 people, 80,000 people back to work in the state, we would solve many of the issues and challenges that we're having today. We'd be able to put them to work. They're paying income tax. If people are working, they're buying things. If they're working, we're not providing unemployment insurance. If they're working, in many cases, they're getting health insurance from their employer. So that is the #1 effort that we need to put forward, is doing jobs. And my idea of getting there is basically to take a look at our assets. And when I talk about assets, I talk about things that we do well in Connecticut. And we do a lot of good things well in Connecticut in business. And to categorize those and to say, what are those top priorities? What are those jobs? What can we do to attract those jobs, or, more importantly, to grow those jobs in Connecticut? Because we not only have to look at attracting new businesses, which I've done as lieutenant governor in going to Europe to attract new businesses, going to China and talking to other states, but we also have to grow the businesses that are here, make them prosper and successful. So that is the #1 thing that we can do in this state, is to continue to grow jobs. As governor, that would be my #1 priority. My #1 priority is to grow jobs, because if we can do that, we can close that gap. Now, we know that our next budget is going to, right now, anywhere from a $3 to $4 billion hole in it. And the question is, how do you get there? And the way you close that hole is basically you look at your spending, You prioritize what you need to get done, and in the same process, put a priority on jobs. Creating those jobs is so very important. Doing those things which are right. And when I talk about jobs, I'm not talking about jobs that are just here today, but I'll give you a statistic. In 2009, of the top 10 jobs in America, 6 of those top 10 jobs did not even exist in 2005. 6 did not even exist in 2005. So if we're looking to create jobs and keep our children here, we have to not only look at the jobs that are here today, but the jobs that are going to be here in the future. And I think that's very important. And so as governor, I would make sure that we're looking at that and also providing the educational parallel. It does us no good to attract businesses here if we do not have the education components that are graduating students to get those jobs. Very, very important. So if you look at and you ask yourself, what are the qualifications of our next governor, the next CEO of the state? And I would tell you that that person has to have the ability to create jobs. I have a record of having created jobs not only in the private sector, but also in the government sector. So you want someone who I believe has had legislative experience, someone who knows how to deal with the House and the Senate, someone who knows how to negotiate those processes. I've had that. I've had 10 years of that experience. At the end of this term, I guess 10 months, I will have had 4 years of experience in the executive branch. I know the responsibilities of a governor. I know the things that I would do as governor. I know the things that I wouldn't do as governor. And I think I have a life story and values that have been instilled in me by my parents that are very basic, very basic. You don't spend more than you make, you don't borrow more than you can pay, and you never take more off the table than you need. Very basic principles that many of us have grown up with. But unfortunately, in government, we've lost that rocket scientist aspect of it. It makes it very complicated, very basic. But this is an opportunity for us to do the right thing, because the Democrats want to get in there and they want to basically continue spending and not cutting. They want to continue to grow government instead of contracting government. Creating jobs in the private sector is the way we go, not in the government sector. And I think Mike or someone mentioned earlier about the phenomena, or not the phenomena, but the excitement that occurred in Massachusetts. And it was very exciting with Scott Brown. Actually, I got to talk to Scott, ironically, through his brother Bruce, who had come to the Capitol a number of months ago with a Cub Scout group, and it was a phenomenal story. But let us not also forget that the reason Scott Brown got elected, because they had a qualified candidate up there running. Okay, all those things could still play in their favor. The health care program, the electoral being upset about what's going on in Washington, and you put up a bad candidate, doesn't mean you're going to win. So Scott Brown had the package. He was a good candidate. He was articulate. He had a good resume for what the citizens of Massachusetts were looking for, and he had the wind on his back on the national movement. Ladies and gentlemen, I will tell you tonight that I believe I am another Scott Brown, not to the extent that he was. I believe I have a resume that talks and prepares me for the experiences in being governor. I have a background in work with governor and town committees and folks of that nature, and I understand the importance of the job. Values that were instilled in me by my parents, and one of the reasons that they came to this country. So hopefully when you listen to me, you've listened to me tonight, you listen to the other candidates, hopefully you'll think about my resume, you'll think about what that next CEO should be for the state of Connecticut, and hopefully you think that Mike Fedele, your lieutenant governor, is the person that you want. Thank you very much.